This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. The United States says it will try to limit any fallout on Jamaica and the Caribbean from its sanctions against Venezuela. The assurance was given by U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson during a joint press conference with Prime Minister Andrew Holness yesterday. The United States is considering imposing oil sanctions against crisis-plagued Venezuela as it looks to put pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's government to return to the Constitution. Previous sanctions issued by U.S. President Donald Trump against Venezuela via executive order in August last year had placed Jamaica's oil agreement with Venezuela under the microscope of overseas financial institutions. The Andrew Holness-led administration is now in the process of repurchasing Venezuela's 49% stake in the Petroleum oil refinery. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson says the United States is aware of the possible fallout its actions against the Maduro regime may have on oil-dependent Caribbean countries, but did not specify how his country would help the region as it continues to pressure the Maduro regime. Venezuela, which has the largest oil reserves in the world, has been struggling after world oil prices began plummeting in late 2015. In giving his views on the issue, Prime Minister Andrew Holness noted that Jamaica does not currently import oil from Venezuela. He explained that Jamaica continues, though, to support the people of Venezuela.
Jamaica supports human rights. Jamaica supports peace in this region, and Jamaica wants to see the people of Venezuela being able to enjoy their democracy. This is a principle that has nothing to do with any other country. This has always been Jamaica's position. We wish the best for the people of Venezuela.
Secretary Tillerson thanked Jamaica for its commitment to upholding human rights in the Bolivarian Republic. Jamaicans could soon pay more for piped water. Effective April 1, the Water Resources Authority will implement a water abstraction charge. Some 159 entities, including the National Water Commission, NWC, and the Jamaica Public Service Company, which use water from natural resources, will pay the fee. This follows last year's passage of the Water Resources Act. The entities will pay a 0.1% charge for each 1,000 gallons of water they take. The WRA expects to collect $50 million annually. The funds will be used for hydrology research by the Water Resources Authority, as well as for the improvement of services provided by the entity. Customers may see increases in their water bills due to the abstraction charges. This is despite a call from the Water Resources Authority and Dr. Horace Chang for fees not to be passed on to customers. But Mark Bennett, president of the National Water Commission, NWC, told RGR News that the additional expenditure will be submitted to the Office of Utilities Regulations, OUR, for review. Still, he noted that if an increase is granted by the OUR, it would be solely as a result of the fee that is being charged by the WRA. Under the new water abstraction fee structure, the National Water Commission will pay 11 cents for every 1,000 gallons drawn to provide water to customers. Plans are far along for the long-anticipated relocation of the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, PICA, from its Consent Spring Road headquarters to a more suitable site that will provide ample parking convenience for customers. The parking arrangement especially has been a sore point for clients over the years, as outside of the few parking spaces for customers on the small compound, attempting to secure parking at nearby plazas has increasingly been met with resistance from security personnel. National Security Minister Robert Montague had said that the government had instructed that the architects move a little faster to complete the designs. Chief Executive Officer of PICA, Andrew Winter, said that if all goes according to plan, the agency should be settled at its new location at West Kings House Road and North Avenue in St. Andrew within another 2 years. The Police Federation is calling for the resignation of Professor Anthony Harriet, head of the Police Civilian Oversight Authority, because of comments reportedly made against members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The Federation also wants a retraction of the statement and an apology. Its concern is in relation to statements reportedly made by Professor Harriet in a Gleaner article on January 29, in which he asserted that MOCA should be separated from the JCF, as the latter is toxic. In a release Wednesday afternoon, Sergeant Cecil McCullough, chairman of the Police Federation, pointed out that about 87% of the staff at MOCA are police officers. Sergeant McCullough said the statements by Professor Harriet have affected the already overburdened members of the constabulary, leaving them even more demoralized than they were before. In regional news, Venezuela's Electoral Council has set April 22 as the date for a controversial presidential election, which the opposition accuses President Nicolas Maduro of using to engineer a second term for himself. The head of the National Electoral Council, PBCJ, made the announcement on Wednesday. With the opposition coalition barred from fielding a candidate and several top Maduro critics banned, the deeply unpopular leftist president's opponents accuse him of rigging the snap vote before it is even held. Venezuela was not due to hold a presidential election until December. The United States has imposed sanctions on 4 serving or retired Venezuelan generals for riots and abuses of corruption. They've also posed sanctions against the country in general. The U.S. Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, who ended his tour of Latin America and the Caribbean region with a working visit to Jamaica yesterday, had this to say about Venezuela's upcoming elections.
We will continue to ask our partners to support the people of Venezuela during this very trying time for them. And we will continue, the United States will, to put pressure on the Maduro regime to return its country to free, open, and democratic elections. The people of Venezuela deserve this.
The Caribbean Development Bank is predicting 2% economic growth for the region in 2018. CDB President Dr. Warren Smith delivered the forecast in his address to the bank's annual conference on Wednesday morning. The projection is predicated on global economic growth, as well as growth of tourism and commodity prices across the Caribbean.
I am also mindful that our economic growth continues to lag behind that of our comparators, and that there are downside risks and uncertainties associated with our economic prospects. For example, relatively modest growth was reported by our BMCs when we compare them with the small economies, other small economies which grew in excess of 4%, and the world economy which grew by 3.1% in 2017.
Smith noted that disaster risk management took prominence in the 2017 with wide-scale destruction caused by Category 5 hurricanes Maria and Irma last September. He said that it has been increasingly costly for the bank to respond to these disasters.
A grant of approximately $14 million was also obtained from the European Union for geothermal energy development in up to 5 countries in the Eastern Caribbean. These countries being Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A new $70 million Mexico Infrastructure Fund, which will provide grants to boost regional infrastructure development, is another source of financing that we have been able to attract. The expansion of the United Kingdom Caribbean Infrastructure Partnership Fund includes an additional £28 million sterling, which will assist in the recovery efforts in Antigua and Barbuda and in Dominica.
On Tuesday, the Antigua and Barbuda Parliament approved legislation to allow people to have up to 15 grams of cannabis. We have more in this report.
Minister said marijuana-related convictions have barred young people from taking advantage of academic and professional opportunities.
Do we continue to criminalize our youth, to put their development at risk, to have a situation in which they get convicted for the use of a spliff or possession of a spliff, and at the same time preclude them from developing themselves for educational prospects abroad, given the opportunity to travel to certain countries because of a criminal conviction, or to undermine the job prospects.
Under the amended bill, those found with up to 15 grams of cannabis will not get a criminal record. Instead, it will be a ticketable offense. In addition, those with convictions related to the possession of less than 15 grams of cannabis will have their records expunged. The Prime Minister, however, said with steps being taken to decriminalize the drug, there will also be strategies to reduce demand.
We also will have a concurrent public education program to reduce the demand, to let the citizens and the residents know about the problems associated with the use of marijuana. So we're taking a very responsible position. In fact, what we're seeking here is to literally deal with it from the public health standpoint and to literally regulate it in a better way.
Noting that his government is against the smoking of marijuana as it has negative health effects, he said the decriminalization is restricted to private use.
Even though we're decriminalizing marijuana, it doesn't give the right for individuals to use it in a public space. They still have to respect the personal space of individuals and to make sure that individuals are not exposed to secondary smoke. That is just as bad, just as unhealthy.
The Prime Minister, acknowledging the medicinal benefits of marijuana, said his government will work swiftly to legalize its use for this specific purpose. He notes, however, that legalizing the weed for recreational purposes is not as clear-cut.
We can see a trend already. I mean, in South America, in Europe, many countries have actually, if not decriminalized, would have actually legalized marijuana. So it is evident that at some point we will get to the stage of full legalization, because it is becoming more common so to do. But again, as a small country, we're not in a position to lead on this. We clearly have to follow on the legalization of marijuana for recreational use.
There was unanimous support for the bill among the lawmakers present.
In sports, Netball Jamaica is optimistic about its decision to have Sasha Gay Henry and Marvette Anderson continue as co-coaches for the senior Sunshine Girls until later this year. Henry and Anderson were drafted in late last year to guide the Sunshine Girls at the Fast 5 tournament in Australia following the resignation of Jermaine Allison McCracken. Both coaches have since been given 2 short-term contracts, with the latest set to run until August. The duo will lead the Sunshine Girls into the upcoming quadrangular tournament in New Zealand from March 21 to March 25 and the Commonwealth Games in Australia's Gold Coast from April 4 to April 15. And that's the news. Do stay with us. The weather report is next. This is PBCJ's weather report. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's start with our local currents. We'll take a look at Kingston. In Kingston right now, the temperature is just about 29 degrees Celsius. We're seeing a forecast of sunny skies, but some cloudy conditions as well. The temperature is set to go down to just about 22 degrees Celsius this evening. Let's take a look at what's happening over there in Montego Bay, St. James. In the afternoon, we're expecting 27 degrees Celsius. We're also expecting that the sun is set to go down at 6:33 p.m. and so will the temperature. In some areas, you'll be feeling 7 degrees Celsius temperature. Let's take a look at what's happening across the island today. We're seeing temperatures between 27 and 31 degrees Celsius. We're also seeing forecasts of scattered showers across several parishes. We're seeing rainfall forecast over there in Portland, St. Anne, and in St. Elizabeth. It should be pretty sunny out in Maypen. Cloudy conditions are expected in St. Thomas. Tomorrow's forecast, we're looking at temperatures between 28 and 31 degrees Celsius. We're also seeing a forecast of scattered showers in those same areas for tomorrow. In our forecast for tomorrow for the region, For those of you who are flying out across different countries, we're expecting temperatures between 25 and 30 degrees Celsius. We're also expecting rainfall in the eastern and central areas of the Caribbean. Let's take a look at what's happening in our travel planner. We're looking at the United States. We're seeing maximum temperatures high 27 degrees Celsius. We're also seeing a low temperature for New York, the lowest temperature -3 degrees Celsius. We're seeing a forecast of snowfall for New York and Atlanta. We're seeing rainfall forecast for Miami. Should be pretty sunny for areas in Los Angeles. And that's it for the weather report. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.